There is always help. We can help anyone who wants to keep their baby, and we urge you to do so. That's what all of these pregnancy clinics and centers and maternity homes do. You never have to kill your baby.
Hi everyone, this is Veronica Kirilenko of the New American Magazine. As promised by California Governor Gavin Newsom last year, the Golden State is rapidly moving towards becoming an abortion sanctuary. The avalanche of bills that likely violate the state and federal constitutions has moved through the California legislature, and if passed and signed into law, would be devastating for the lives of unborn children. One of the most egregious of these bills, AB 2223, would protect both a woman and any person assisting her in getting an abortion from civil and criminal liability related to the death of an infant in the perinatal period for any reason. How evil is that? How is that possibly happening in America? Today, I'm privileged to speak with the pro-life attorney, Susan Swift, who serves as the vice president of legal affairs at the Right to Life League, the oldest pro-life organization in America. Susan, welcome, and thank you for fighting the good fight.
Thanks so much for having me on, Veronica. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Susan. Before we move on to discussing the pro-abortion legislation, please tell us about the Right to Life League and your mission.
I'm happy to do that. The Right to Life League started in 1967, back in January then. That's more than 6 years before Roe versus Wade ever happened. At that time, it was a group of lawyers and doctors and concerned citizens who decided to come together and go to Sacramento to meet with then Governor Ronald Reagan. They wanted to lobby him against signing the Bielenson bill, which was the first therapeutic abortion bill in California. So they traveled there and they were going to have a 15-minute meeting with Reagan. And it turned out they spent more than an hour with him, educating him, explaining what abortion really was. Because back in 67, a lot of people really didn't understand what abortion was really all about. We didn't have ultrasounds back then. And so after their conversation with Reagan, Reagan was very dismayed because he had given his word to the Democrats at that time, saying that he would sign the Bielenson bill, and he didn't feel like he could break his word. And so he made a promise to the league. He said he would never again sign another pro-abortion piece of legislation. And he kept his word. That's how we got founded. From there, we represent or we assist more than 60 pro-life organizations throughout the state. These are pro-life clinics, pro-life centers, and maternity homes all up and down California. And what we do for them, and we serve them for free, that everything we give them is free. We want to make sure that they keep their doors open so that they can be the boots on the ground, so that they can minister to the abortion-minded women, and do whatever they need to help these women choose life. A lot of times, if you want to form a corporation in California, there are a lot of legal hoops you need to jump through. If you want to be a licensed medical clinic so that you can perform ultrasounds and you can perform pregnancy tests or STI testing, you have to be fully licensed in the state. And these aren't simple procedures. And so what we do is we make sure that these clinics and centers and maternity homes have the resources that they need, the administrative training, the HR boot camps, anything that they need to make sure that their doors stay open. We also fund them. We provide them ultrasound machines. We'll do whatever it is, whatever they need to make their business thrive. That's what we want to help them with. And we're kind of a shield for all of these organizations all across California.
Yes, in California, you do have a lot of work. Please explain to us the meaning of all the bills that aim at expanding abortion access, in some cases, as I understand, even to schoolgirls whose parents won't even know about anything. And as I know, there are at least 6 bills, right, that aim at expanding abortion access. How would you define the intent and significance of this massive legislative effort?
Well, I'm calling it the abortion apocalypse, and it will officially start August 31st. That's the last day when the legislature can pass, or all of these different bills that are going through. There must be about 20 of them. I think you're right when you say about 6 bills are about funding only. Another one of them that you just mentioned, AB 1940, will create school-based healthcare centers And in some ways, that can be a good thing because that will provide eyeglasses and different, maybe other different services through the school health centers for rural communities. That's very helpful. However, the problem is in that legislation, AB 40, they also have an area, a clause that says it will also encompass reproductive health care. And that's code for abortion. So, what can happen in these school based healthcare systems? What can happen is that Planned Parenthood can set up an office right outside of school, and it's a school based health center. And so they can start providing abortion pills to children as young as 12 because last year the California legislature made sure that parents are not allowed to know about any abortion services or any kind of medical services that their children are receiving through the schools. So it's a privacy thing that they want to protect a child's right to get an abortion. So that's already part of the law. California prevents a parent from even being notified that their daughter is receiving an abortion. And they've even blocked it so that you can't even go find out through your insurance for why are you paying for certain services. That's even now confidential as well. So these school-based healthcare facilities, they might be providing some really good things like maybe eyeglasses or maybe other mental health options for children. But what they can provide, at least according to this legislation, they can provide abortion pills or surgical abortions or maybe appointments. They can refer out for abortions, and the parents will never know.
This is terrible. And Susan, AB 2223 is hands down one of the most radical pro-abortion pieces. Please let me quote the passage that is the most disturbing. So a person shall not be subject to civil or criminal liability or penalty or otherwise deprived of their rights under this article based on their action or omission with respect to their pregnancy or actual, potential, or alleged pregnancy outcome, including miscarriage, stillbirth, or abortion, or perinatal death due to causes that occurred in utero. So it's maybe very hard to comprehend to anyone without legal background. So please translate it from legal speak to English for us.
Sure. What it does is it sets up it prevents any criminal or civil liability for any mother, and now they've redefined it as a pregnant person. So it can be anyone, right? Anyone who even identifies.
It's a woman. It's always a woman, right? We know that.
I'm not a biologist, but I know what a woman is. Okay?
Right.
So for any mother who has a stillbirth, a miscarriage, an abortion, or a perinatal death due to causes that occur in utero. Okay, what does that mean? The idea came from the idea that the notion is let's not prosecute women for miscarriages or stillbirths, because there was one case where a woman who was a meth addict delivered a baby who then died several hours later because the baby was addicted to meth. And a prosecutor went after the woman to prosecute her for murder. So Planned Parenthood took that opportunity to say, look, these rogue conservative prosecutors are trying to demonize women and go after them and prosecute them for miscarriages and stillbirths. We can't allow this. So they came up with this bill, the Planned Parenthood and ACLU. And they've expanded it radically past miscarriage or stillbirth to include abortion and perinatal death. Well, what is perinatal? It's not prenatal. Prenatal is before birth. Perinatal means after birth. So perinatal death is the death of a baby that's been born alive. Now, the other part of that language is perinatal death due to causes that occurred in utero. Well, what does that mean? Well, something that occurs in utero, that's in the uterus, in the mother's body. That can be something like conception that occurs in utero. That could be genetic anomalies like Downs or spina bifida or any trisomy 18, anything like that. Maybe part of the delivery process, the cord wrapped around the neck 3 times, sunny side up delivery, any kind of delivery. That's all that is a cause that started in utero. But it also it includes chemical abortion, and surgical abortion. Chemical abortion is a cocktail, a drug cocktail. You take one, it's called mifeprex, and that interferes with progesterone so that the baby starves to death over a period of 48 hours. Then you take a second pill called misoprostol, and that induces labor contractions so that then you expel the dead or dying baby. And people have been born, have survived a botched chemical abortion. But this bill, this says perinatal death due to causes that occur in utero. This anticipates that. So you can, just like Governor Northam of Virginia would say, you can keep the baby comfortable after it's been delivered and you can decide what you want to do with it.
It's
So
former governor.
yes, thank you. You're right. And we're so glad it is former governor, right?
Yep.
Because that anyway, but what he said is kind of encapsulated in this law. So the mother, if she is choosing an abortion, she can take a chemical abortion pill or a surgical abortion where they literally tear the limbs off of a baby, grasp the pieces and drag them out one at a time, killing the baby inside. Sometimes, though, people have been born following a botched surgical abortion. And so now we have a survivor, an abortion survivor on the table, born alive. Well, what can you do? That means you can let the baby die. That would be an omission. A failure to act is an omission, or it could be an act. Now, I don't know what that means. Maybe that's smothering the baby. I'm not really sure, but an act or omission that results in the preferred pregnancy outcome during this perinatal period, so long as you can point back to a cause that occurred in utero, like, well, the chemical or surgical abortion. So where do we get 28 days? Where does that come from? That's also in California law. California law defines perinatal as the period that starts with conception and continues through for the first month of a baby's life, the first 28 days. So it's possible that the baby can be born, maybe has Down syndrome, and you can just let the baby die. Or maybe something like what happened in Nebraska. This was a case in Nebraska, I believe back in April. Fox News has reported it. Live Action has reported it. This was a dynamic duo, a mother and her child. The girl was 17 years old at the time, and the mother procured chemical abortion pills for her daughter, her 17-year-old daughter, who willingly took the pills to abort the baby. The baby was born at 24 weeks viability, a baby boy. They wrapped, the mother and the daughter wrapped the child up in plastic to smother it, and then lit it on fire, and then buried the body. Now that's being investigated because that was an illegal abortion after 20 weeks in Nebraska, because the laws there in Nebraska say you can't do that after 20 weeks. That case, that exact scenario, could not be investigated in California because of AB 2223 if it is passed, because it will prevent any criminal or civil liability for the mother or anyone who assists her in obtaining her preferred pregnancy outcome.
So basically, it would be legal to kill a baby.
Exactly. What you're understanding, you see, it doesn't legalize it technically, but the way it does is it prevents any civil or criminal liability, and so there's no point in prosecuting it. And it also goes farther than that. It adds an entire section that says anyone who investigates, who wants to know, well, what was the cause of this baby's death, that person can be sued for $25,000 plus costs and attorney's fees. It also strips out the coroner's duty to determine the cause of the baby's death. So the coroner doesn't have to investigate anymore. He can just rely on anyone who was there, like the abortionist, who points to a cause in utero that caused the baby's death, at least ostensibly. Somebody can just say it, well, that was due to a cause in utero. We're not going to investigate it. We're not going to actually verify it. It's a little bit like when Nancy Pelosi was trying to sell a budget bill. She said, well, we have to pass it to find out what's in it. Right? That's what this is. You're not allowed to find out what the baby died from, because to investigate it, it violates the main section that says you're not allowed to attach civil or criminal liability against the mother or anyone who assists her. And if you do, you're going to be subject to a private cause of action. And I'm sure that the plaintiff's bar, the pro-abort plaintiff's bar, will go after the attorney's fees. So if you want to know, well, what killed this baby, you can't ask, you can't investigate it. So like a mandated reporter, a first responder, EMT, things like that, who arrive at a scene and they find a mother who's recently delivered and there's a dead baby there. They're not going to be able to ask why the baby was killed if the mother has consented to the abortion procedure. And that's the key. It's all what the mother wants. If she wants a dead baby, she gets a dead baby. And that's why I've called it Buffy's Baby Slayer Bill, because Buffy Wicks, Assemblywoman Buffy Wicks, is the author. She doesn't really understand what's in her bill, but she is the one that's authored it and put it on the floor and has expanded this protection, legal protection, for anyone who commits an abortion. Even
Susan,
if the baby
right.
survives, you can't go after them.
It sounds so barbaric. And how do you explain? Well, you say that the irrationale is that they are trying to protect the mother from criminal liability, but it's absolutely unspeakable. What's the real reason behind this push?
What this is Planned Parenthood, NARAL, and these abortion providers, they saw the writing on the wall with Dobbs coming down, and they said, we're going to lose half of our market share, which is, half of the states are going to immediately enact some sort of restriction against abortion. And so we need to have a better business model. Let's go to California. We'll talk to Governor Newsom. He'll help us. We'll use taxpayer money to fund our operation. And that is literally what they're doing with SB 1142. That's the abortion tourism bill. And what that's going to do, they've actually moved sections of that into the budget now. So the bill has, the language does not exist in the bill outstanding as a bill. It's now been adopted into the budget. What that's going to do is it's going to fly women from all over the country and pay for them to travel here so that they can get their free abortion. Abortion's already free, no insurance copay here in California, but the travel will be paid for. Lodging will be paid for. Lost wages will be paid for. So you can take your 2-week vacation. You'll be paid for that by California, and child care. So you can bring the children you want to keep to California while you abort the one you don't want, and it'll all be covered. The only thing that won't be included yet are tickets to Disneyland. Maybe they'll have a coupon day.
Susan, well, since we touched on this financial aspect, I do believe, well, maybe for many people, it's secondary to the issue of abortion, because the most important part is, of course, that the baby is being killed. I think the allocation of funds accurately reflect the priorities of the lawmakers, and California, we know, has a 75 billion surplus in its budget. And to your knowledge, how much money does the government plan to spend on different options for pregnant women? How much would be sent to pregnancy support centers, and how much would be given to the abortion industry under those bills?
As far as I know, they have done their best to make sure that no money is going to be going to pro-life centers or clinics. The bills that they're pushing through, like 2134 and 1240, SB 1245, they are targeting funds to go specifically to pro-abortion centers like Planned Parenthood. That's the goal, because they don't want any funding going to any of the pro-life clinics or centers. They've made it very, very clear that even when you apply for some of these grants, you must provide comprehensive reproductive health care. And if it's not comprehensive, meaning if you don't practice abortion, if you don't offer it at your clinic, you're not going to be eligible. They are spending $20 million just for abortion scholarships. That's AB 1918. So you can apply to become an abortionist, make your mama proud, right? Not an oncologist, not a podiatrist, not a dentist. No, we're going to fund your scholarship for the state to be an abortionist. That's 20 million right there. They've earmarked 20 million for the abortion tourism to fly women here. And I also understand there's about the total package is $120 million designed to promote access to abortion. That's the expansion of abortion out of our budget. That's why I'm calling it an abortion apocalypse.
In your opinion, what can be done to protect the lives of the unborn? And Susan, what's your message to women who might be desperate, confused, misinformed, and view their pregnancy as a burden or hurdle to their careers, lives, etc.?
There is always help. We can help anyone who wants to keep their baby, and we urge you to do so. That's what all of these pregnancy clinics and centers and maternity homes do. You never have to kill your baby, even if it is for your, if you have a health problem. The answer is delivery, because delivery can be very quickly accomplished. Abortion is not health care. That's a lie. What it is it's a business model to fund an entire death industry out here in California. What they should be looking for are ways that they can help survive with their baby. And there's more than enough out there for them to be able to do. If they want to, call the Right to Life League.org, right2lifeleague.org. We can refer them to any pro-life clinic or center in California so that they can get the help they need.
Are there any other resources that you would recommend to not just to pregnant women, but just to citizens in general to follow you and your work?
Well, if anyone wants to help, because we are the boots on the ground here in California, we educate the public, we fight bad legislation, and we support over 60 pro-life clinics and centers and maternity homes up and down the state. If they want to know, well, Kent, where does my money go? Please, this is where we've been fighting abortion since 1967, where it started in California. This is where it's going to end. This is the battle for life. And I would ask them to go to right2lifeleague.org. Just buy us a cup of coffee, $5. We're not woke. We don't have any merch, but all of your money will go to fund the programs that keep these clinics open and support them so that they can do the ministry that they need to do to help these women.
Sounds good. Susan, I would like to thank you for your time and for your amazing work in California. God bless you.